Why am I human? Not a tree, a star, or nothing at all. The Buddha's answer. Part 1. The Big Question, and why it's not just imagination. Sometimes this question doesn't come from books, lectures, or religion. It comes when you're sitting alone, thinking quietly. You look around and wonder, why am I me? Not just why am I alive, but something deeper. Why this body, this mind, this moment? Why am I a human being? Not a tree, not a cloud, not some invisible spirit floating in space. Science gives us part of the story. It says you're here because of evolution, DNA, biology, chemistry. Your body was shaped by millions of years of change. Your brain developed to help you survive. But even after understanding all that, a quiet question remains. Why this life? Why this mind? Why here? It's not a question that science can fully answer, because it's not only about the body. It's about the nature of being. It's not about how we are here, but why we are this. And this is where the Buddha's teachings begin to touch something deeper. The Buddha didn't offer a story about a God who made people. He didn't describe a soul sent down to earth. He simply said, "It is intention, I tell you, that is karma. Intending, one does karma by way of body, speech, and mind." This means what you are, what you experience, begins in your own mind. Every choice, every intention, every thought, they leave traces. Being human is not a gift from a God. It's not a punishment either. It's the natural result of mental actions, carried across lifetimes. You are not here by chance. You are here because of causes. This is not about blame. It's not about pride. It's about clarity. Lao Tzu, a Chinese sage, once said, "The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth." What he meant was this: the root of existence is not a person, not a creator, but something wordless, a movement, a flow. That idea is close to what the Buddha called dependent origination. Things do not come from nothing. They come from other things. And all things come together through conditions, not commands. There is no need for a God to decide what you are. There is only cause and effect, mind and action, condition and result. When the mind is clear, kind, and awake, it creates a life with those same qualities. When it is greedy, angry, confused, the result is different. So when you ask, "Why am I me?" you are not asking a silly question. You are touching the edge of wisdom. Most people never ask. Or if they do, they stop at the surface. But the Buddha taught, if you look deeply into this question, not with fear or hope, but with calm attention, you will begin to understand life, and not just your own. Being human is not a random event. It is the result of mental patterns. It is a chance, shaped by your past intentions, to see clearly. You were not made. You came to be, through your own mind, moving through time. And so, asking this question is not just philosophy. It is a doorway. Not a doorway to answers, but to insight. When you ask it without rushing, without needing someone else to explain, you begin to hear something quiet inside. A different kind of knowing. That's the beginning of the path. That's where wisdom starts. Part 2. The Birth of Humanity. What the Buddha really taught. When we look at the human body, science offers many details. It tells us that Homo sapiens appeared about 300,000 years ago in Africa. Through the study of fossils, bones, and genetics, we can trace how the body changed over time. But while science speaks clearly about bones and brains, it does not speak about the mind itself, the sense of being. That part, the part that knows it is alive, is not explained by DNA. The Buddha told a different kind of story, one that does not begin with land or skin, but with awareness. He described the birth of humanity in terms of how the mind moved and shifted. In the Agana Sutta, the Buddha shared a teaching that may sound like a story, but it was never meant to entertain. It was a mirror to help us see how craving begins and what it leads to. In that teaching, the Buddha said that long, long ago, beings did not have physical forms. They were mind-made and radiant. They came from a realm known as Abhasara, a place where beings existed peacefully, supported by joy. At that time, there was no gender, no anger, no comparison, no need to own anything. What kept these beings bright was the absence of greed and hatred. Their light came not from fire or the sun, but from a pure mind. Then something changed. Some of those beings noticed a sweet taste on the surface of the earth. They touched it. They tasted it. And slowly, craving entered. That craving made their bodies denser. They became heavier. Physical features formed. Gender appeared. Comparison followed. Some looked better than others. Others took more of the earth. Jealousy arose, and with jealousy came pride, shame, theft, punishment. Society formed. This wasn't told as a history of earth or a description of a lost paradise. It was a reflection of how the human condition takes shape, again and again, not just once, but over many world cycles. When the mind is clear, it rests in lightness. When it begins to want, to hold, to divide, the world around it becomes heavier. Separation grows. Rules are needed. Identity becomes central, and suffering begins. The Buddha didn't teach this to entertain. He taught it to show us the pattern. He pointed out that this is not a myth to believe or reject. It is a map of the mind. First comes purity, a mind without clinging. Then comes craving. After that, the sense of I and mine takes shape. That leads to struggle, loss, and fear. Out of fear, society is born. And society, while useful, is also where we forget what we truly are. Some people ask, did this really happen? Who was the first human? That question may miss the point. In Buddhism, there is no fixed starting point. The cycle of mind and form has no clear beginning. The Buddha was not describing a single first human in history. He was describing the birth of humanity as a mental process, something that repeats in every world cycle, and even within each of us, moment by moment. What matters more is it still happening now? When you want something and can't get it, how does your body feel? When you compare yourself to others, what does your mind do? When you cling to things, name, role, belief, what kind of world do you create? The Buddha ended that discourse by saying, Dhamma is the best thing for people, in this life and the next. He was not talking about religion. He meant the natural truth, the path of clarity, kindness, and wisdom. That's what brings peace. That's what restores balance. Human beings, in the way the Buddha saw it, are not simply bodies that appeared one day on earth. We are the result of a long flow of mental formations. What we are today is shaped by how our minds have moved and how they've clung. So to understand where humans come from, we don't need to travel through space. We only need to look inward. The past is not behind us. It lives in the way we think, act, and feel right now. The birth of humanity is not just an ancient event. It is something that unfolds inside each of us, moment by moment, whenever we shift from clarity to craving. And that is why this teaching matters. Because once we see the pattern, we can choose another way. We don't need to go back to the beginning. We need to return to awareness, and that return happens in silence, attention, and honesty. It doesn't need belief, it needs observation. The birth of humanity, then, is not just a story of long ago. It's a mirror showing how a pure mind slowly turns into a confused one, and how that confusion becomes the world we live in. And the path forward begins when we stop blaming the world and start understanding the mind. Part 3. Why you were reborn as a human. Not a dog, ghost, or Deva. Most people assume being human is just a result of biology or luck, a matter of chance. But in the teachings of the Buddha, being born as a human is neither random nor guaranteed. It comes from causes, very specific ones. Not physical causes like genes or climate, but mental ones. The state of mind, the quality of actions, the force of intentions. The Buddha said, "Beings are the owners of their actions, the heirs of their actions." It is karma that makes beings different, coarse or refined. That means your birth wasn't assigned by a god or spun by fortune. It was shaped by habits of mind. What you think, what you feel, what you choose. These are not just passing moods. They're like seeds. They don't vanish when the body dies. They continue. They shape what comes next. To be born as a human, 3 conditions must come together. First, there must be strong, wholesome karma. Actions rooted in generosity, honesty, and kindness. Not just big actions, but even small ones done with sincerity. A kind word, a moment of restraint, a quiet choice not to harm. Second, the mind must be stable at the moment of death. Not scattered, not panicked, not clinging to pain or hate. A clear mind, even for a few breaths, can change the direction of what follows. Third, a type of consciousness must arise that fits this human world. In Buddhism, it's called Patisandhi-citta, the linking mind. This isn't a soul. It's not a fixed self. It's the continuation of mental energy, shaped by past habits, ready to take a new form. That's why birth in different realms is not random. It reflects what the mind has become. Not what it once thought, but what it repeatedly fed. A mind filled with greed and stinginess moves toward the realm of hungry ghosts, beings always craving, never satisfied. A mind ruled by ignorance and instinct moves toward the animal realm, driven by survival, but lacking awareness. A mind filled with joy and generosity may rise to a heavenly state, a place of ease and light. But even those bright states are not final. They fade. Pleasure without wisdom eventually leads back to confusion. So where does the human realm stand in all this? It's not the highest and not the lowest. It holds both pain and clarity. It allows for both mistakes and awakening. A human mind can question, can pause, can train itself. It can feel pain without collapsing. It can feel joy without losing awareness. That middle ground is what makes spiritual growth possible. Some may wonder, why me? Why now? The answer isn't always clear in memory, but it's clear in principle. If you are human now, it means somewhere in the past, maybe long ago, you trained your mind in some form of care. Maybe not perfectly, but enough to bring you here. You might have respected truth. You might have shared when you had little. You might have let go when you could have clung. That small act, done in a quiet life, shaped this moment. That's what karma means. Not punishment, not reward, but continuation. This also means that your future form is not fixed. Each thought, each action is part of what you become. You're not locked into being human forever. That can sound strange, or even frightening. But it's also freeing, because it means you're not trapped. The path continues. You are not just a product of the past. You are also the condition of what comes next. So if you ask, why wasn't I born as a dog, or a ghost, or a Deva shining in some distant world? The answer is simple. Because your mind, at some point, grew roots in both clarity and care. It was heavy enough to feel, but light enough to learn. That balance is what gave rise to this life. A life where suffering is real, but wisdom is possible. A life where pain is present, but so is the chance to wake up. Part 4. Why human life is so rare and so precious. If you pick up a pinch of dust on your fingertip and compare it to the ground beneath your feet, it's clear which one is more. The Buddha once used this image when he spoke to the monks. Holding a small bit of dust on his finger, he asked, "Which is more, this dust, or the vast earth?" The monks answered easily, "The earth, of course." Then the Buddha said, "In the same way, very few beings are reborn as humans. Far more are reborn in hell, as animals, or as hungry ghosts." This isn't just a metaphor. It's a wake-up call. The human state is not something we should take for granted. If you're listening to this now, with a human mind, a human body, and the freedom to reflect, that means you've come through a narrow gate. Not everyone makes it here. Why is it so rare? Because most states of rebirth are shaped by strong emotions that cloud the mind. In hell realms, there is too much pain. Pain so intense that there's no space for awareness. In the animal realm, life is about surviving, not understanding. In the ghost realm, craving fills every corner, but nothing satisfies. In heavenly realms, life can seem so easy that beings forget to reflect. There is pleasure, but no pressure to wake up. But the human realm is different. It stands right in the middle. It includes both joy and sorrow, gain and loss. That balance gives birth to something special. The urge to understand. A person can suffer deeply and still ask, why? A person can feel love and still know that it doesn't last forever. That space between comfort and discomfort is where wisdom can grow. It doesn't mean humans are the best. It means this form gives the best chance to wake up. This chance, though, is fragile. It doesn't last long. Bodies get old, minds get distracted. If we're not paying attention, the preciousness of this life is buried under routine. That's why the Buddha said, "Train yourselves. We will live mindfully." Not to be perfect, not to be better than others, but to remember what we carry. Not everyone has the chance to sit, to listen, to ask deep questions. If we forget that, we fall back into the same patterns that brought us pain in the first place. In a way, being human is like standing at a crossroads. One path leads upward, toward wisdom, compassion, and freedom. The other path leads downward, back into confusion and mindless habits. Which path we walk depends not on our beliefs, but on how we live each day. Do we act with care? Do we speak with honesty? Do we look at our own mind with clarity? If we do, even a little, we move in the right direction. There's a line from the philosopher Nietzsche. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Buddhism offers that kind of why. Not to seek comfort, not to gain power, but to wake up, to see through suffering, to understand its roots, and to end it. That purpose is deeper than pleasure. It gives meaning to pain. It gives direction to life. So if you are human now, recognize what that means. You've received something that many beings long for but rarely reach. You have a mind that can learn, a voice that can speak truth, a heart that can feel both sorrow and compassion. These are not small things. They are conditions for awakening. Dust on a fingertip may seem tiny, but if it's your chance, it means everything. Part 5. How to truly live as a human, not just look like one. Some people have a human body but feel far away from themselves. They move through life, walking, working, eating. But inside, they feel like something is missing. They live in reaction, pulled by habits, drifting through the days without knowing what they are truly seeking. When the Buddha spoke about human life, he didn't only mean having a human body. He meant living with presence, really being here for this life, with a steady and caring mind. To live as a true human means to notice the mind, to notice suffering, to notice impermanence. The Buddha didn't just say, "Be good." He said, "Develop mindfulness." That means being awake enough to see your own thoughts, your speech, your actions. It means not running from pain or chasing comfort. It means knowing what leads to suffering and what leads away from it, and choosing gently. The Buddha described the path in 3 simple steps: virtue, concentration, and wisdom. Virtue means living with care, not harming, not stealing, not lying. It creates a mind that is light and open. Concentration means bringing the mind back to the present, again and again. It brings stillness. Wisdom is the quiet understanding that everything changes and that clinging brings pain. There's a simple verse in the Dhammapada. Mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is chief. Everything is made by mind. This isn't just poetry. It's a deep truth. Everything we call life, joy, sadness, relationships, fear, starts in the mind. When the mind is steady, life feels steady. Another time, the Buddha said, Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. He didn't say to follow him blindly. He said to trust your own honest seeing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to carry a heavy burden. The path is not about rushing to escape. It's about walking with awareness, right here, right now. Some teachings say the final goal is to step beyond the cycle of birth and death. But this does not need to be a weight on your shoulders. The Buddha gently pointed toward freedom, but that freedom grows from small moments of presence. It is not about forcing yourself to let go of everything today. It is about seeing clearly and kindly, one breath at a time. To be here, fully present, is already a deep step toward peace. You can meet suffering with understanding. You can meet joy with gratitude. You can plant seeds of mindfulness, patience, and compassion. These seeds grow into the human you truly are. And even if you do not reach full awakening in this life, every wholesome seed you plant, every moment of kindness, every act of mindfulness, becomes part of the path. It becomes the ground for the next step. When this life fades, your good actions, your steady mind, and your sincere efforts will shape where you go next. They create the conditions for you to continue the path, to meet the teachings again, and to walk further with clarity and strength. This is not something to fear. It is a quiet encouragement to live well now, to build the causes for peace, both in this life and beyond. This life is precious and short. You don't know how many years, months, or even breaths you have left in this form. But while you're here, you can live with a mind that sees gently and deeply. You can respond instead of react. You can remember what matters. You are not just flesh and bone. You are awareness, capable of waking up. You are karma in motion. And more than that, you are the one who can choose where that motion leads. So live as someone who remembers. Live as someone who sees. Live as a human, fully, kindly, and wisely.